of some of the theory, or if I was studying linguistics, like I could have a sense of how that applied to what I was doing. I think that there were students alongside me in the master's program who had no previous teaching experience and were only going to class, and I think it was just a little too removed from the day-to-day to make any difference. And then probably the most beneficial thing from my master's program was my student teaching. And that wasn't, obviously that wasn't at, I went to NYU, that wasn't at NYU, that was in a high school, and that was actually at the high school where I'm teaching now. So it, in addition to giving me a semester's worth of really fantastic teaching experience alongside an experienced teacher who had very creative ideas, it also provided me with a job placement, because then I had a good reputation at that school, and when a position opened there, the teacher I had worked with immediately recommended me for that. So I think that's the kind of master's program, that's the kind of situation that made the master's program really meaningful. The other, this is not a master's program, but I'm just going to put in a plug for it because it's been great, is that once you get to be a teacher, then you're involved in a fair amount of professional development where they try to teach you about being a better teacher while you're already teaching. And a lot of that professional development is pretty pointless and a kind of a waste of time. But my school has been working together with an organization called the New York City Writing Project, which is not only in New York City, there's a national, it's a national association, so many cities have a writing project group, and you can go online and look them up, the National Writing Project, and that has been a tremendously helpful professional development. And so in terms of teacher education, I would say anything run by the Writing Project is probably going to be worth your while, even if you're not thinking of being an English teacher. I mean, even if you're going to be a science teacher or a history teacher, the Writing Project has really great ideas about ways to inspire students and also inspire teachers. So if they ran a master's program, I would sign up for that one.
So who else here? Emma?
I can speak for some of none of us did Teach for America, but several of us did the teaching residency programs, which are similar. There's a group called the New Teacher Project that doesn't really put itself out there, but they very quietly run New York City Teaching Fellows, DC Teaching Fellows, Baltimore City Teaching Residency. They have programs in Miami, Philadelphia, New Orleans, some in California, really all over the Eastern Seaboard. And they're different from TFA in that you apply directly to the city you're going to be in. And I think one of the things that they do well, that actually answers the question that you were asking before, is that they primarily recruit people who are changing careers. People who've spent 20 years doing something and say, I want to do something else, I want to use what I've been doing, but I want to do something completely different, and they go into the classroom. And for them, it's really good because they've got a support system in that city, and they really know what they want to do. As far as these programs and the master's programs that they offer, all three of us have survived it. It's a very exhausting 2 years. I started a month after I graduated. I did 2 grad courses that summer, a seminar class that was every day for 4 hours, and a student teaching 4 hours a day. And then August 25th, I had my own classroom. I had no support. Fortunately, I only had 3 students. Those first couple months, I don't know what my life would have been like if I'd had my full class now. Would have been very different. But
so I'm a part-time at BU, and so my route to teach, I thought my route to teach, and my route to teaching is that I taught in a private school for 2 years before I moved on to my current school. And one question I could ask everyone up here is does education school teach you how to teach? And in my experience, no. I'm in the education program for a couple of reasons. One thing, in order to get my professional license, I have to get a master's by my 5th year. Another thing is I like to learn. My school is covering half of every class I take, and if I'm telling my students to learn them, I should be learning too. I think I have gained from it. I have gained from it because I'm actually teaching while I'm learning. So anything I hear in the classroom, I'm allowed to implement it in anything I hear in my BU classroom, I can implement it in my own classroom. And I found that to be helpful. So I've really cherry-picked the kind of courses I've taken. I've taken one on Web 2.0 where I learned about blogs and wikis. and different things like we spoke about Skype today. So other like powerful Web 2.0 technologies. Also learn about school management. But in my opinion, I think it's valuable to be in the classroom before you go to a master's program, because I don't think a master's program can prepare you to teach. I think you have to learn how to teach by being in the classroom, and then it's really about your support network, because I think it's the hardest. It's the hardest thing is being a first-year teacher. I think that's one of the hardest things. I think it's underrated. I think if people knew how hard it was, they respect teachers a lot more.
Or they might not go into teaching at all. Don't tell them how hard it is.
There's an amazing documentary called The First Year, and it's both scary, but it's also very inspirational. And I felt like it was really accurate. Like I felt like it really captured the frustrations that we're talking about having someone you care about that you can't do what you need to for them, and dealing with the bureaucracy and hard work and everything, but also like why these people are there, and you really got a feeling for that. They showed it to us at my training, and I mean not a single person in the room, maybe 200 people, was not sobbing. Everyone was crying. But I think, and I've seen it since, I still feel like it's accurate. If you're thinking about becoming a teacher, you should watch that movie.
But also, I'll say something that I said this morning based on what you're saying, which is you need a support network that first year. I moved to a brand new city where I didn't know a living soul. I got an apartment by myself, and I tried to be a first year teacher. And I survived it. It was fine in the end. But one of the things to consider if you're looking at these programs is to pick one where you have people. Like either friends from Amherst or friends from real life or family. If you have someone there who you can go home and lean on when you're exhausted, it will be bearable in a way that it isn't always when you're by yourself.
Martine, I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to say, I mean, Bio actually made that point. The biggest flaw, I think, with Teaching Fellows, Teach for America, or any other residency program is that it requires you to complete your master's in 2 years, and those 2 years are your first 2 years of teaching. So while you're sitting there trying to figure out what all these acronyms mean, like public school teachers speak a language that, and charter schools speak a language that, we have IEPs and AYPs, and we have all kinds of acronyms that I'm sure you guys have probably heard a couple thrown around, and it's extremely difficult to even decipher. So you're sitting there in a meeting, like, close to tears because you don't really know what people are talking about, and then you're going to school until 10 o'clock at night, listening to theory, which doesn't really help you decipher the code of where they're speaking. The biggest problem I have is, none of the theory was relevant to me until now. And I'm just thankful that I saved all my readings. And now I'm revisiting Piaget's theory of development. I'm revisiting a lot of the things that I remember reading and I remember discussing, but did not connect because I was so overwhelmed with the task of being a first and second year teacher. So I definitely agree with your point that you should not enter, or you don't have a choice in Teaching Fellows, but the flaw, there's many flaws, but one of the biggest flaws is it's not a valuable master's degree that you have in your pocket if it doesn't mean something to you while you're learning it. I wish I could go right now and do that 2-year master's program again, because it would mean so much more to me. And just also the thing with the boys crying in my class, like they drop a pencil and cry for like 45 minutes. I didn't understand why. And it's the boys, not the girls. They're not sleeping. They're not sleeping enough. Our kids in general do not sleep enough. So if you know anybody with kids, tell them to put their kids to bed early.